Okay, let's start in five, four, three. Hi, my name is Antonio Edward, and I want to thank you again for joining MobiCast. And I have a really special guest on. Okay, let's start that over again, okay?
Okay, sure.
Okay. That's one thing that's good about not live radio is that I can. Okay. And recording is still going. Okay, here we go. Five, four, three.
Show begins now.
Hi, this is Antonio Edward in another episode of MobiCast. I have a really special guest today. His name is Pranil Kanderi, and he is someone I found on meetup.com just rather recently. And I haven't attended one of the meetups yet, but it's one of the major things is that, wow, a mobile community, that is something. A mobile community right here in Phoenix, of all places. Usually you see places like this, like groups like this in Los Angeles, San Francisco, the major cities. And yeah, Phoenix is a large city, but as I'm very slowly finding these awesome groups and places out there, like the Phoenix Blogger Society and just so many others. And this. I invited this Pranil to come on the show today to discuss his career, talk about himself. He is a mobile developer. He works for companies that actually work on these mobile apps that are available for Android, for iPhones, for Blackberries. It's the kind of thing I support because if you heard my last show, there is not enough multi-platform apps out there. They only make it for just iPhone or iPhone and Android, and that's it. And there's not enough companies doing for everything. So I'd like to invite Pranil Kanderi, and I want to thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Antonio. It's great to be on MobiCast.
Thank you very much. And so first, before we get started, let's tell me about yourself.
Yes, I'm Pranil Kanderi. I've been in the software industry for about 12 years now. My undergrad is in computer science. My master's is in computer science. I worked for Motorola for about a little over 7 years. Most of it was in mobile apps. We did some pretty early development in mobile applications with navigation and things like that.
Mm.
So yeah.
No, you say you did some government, if I heard you correctly.
No, Motorola.
Oh, Motorola. Okay. And tell me a bit more about those apps.
So yeah, our first app was a navigation app. I don't know if you remember in the early days of Avis Assist, the product was called Avis Assist, and it was powered by VMoto. VMoto was our product from Motorola. So when you rent a car, you had an option to rent a navigation system, and at that time, Garmin wasn't huge, TomTom wasn't huge, so they used to give out an old ident phone, an i88, which is like a monochrome black and white phone, um, uh, and we did navigation on that. I mean, with GPS, on-road navigation, voice commands and everything. I mean, this was in like 2003, 2004, way before any of this open market applications came into play.
That sounds really awesome, man. I use a lot of GPS related apps as well, and I'm not a golf player, but yeah, I think riding my bike. It was really awesome to have that a GPS when I was in Germany. It wasn't a phone, but it was just a GPS unit riding my bike all over Germany, and it was so much fun to do that. So I always knew where I was because first time in the country, I didn't know where I was going, so I always kept myself in the know. So it was really nice to have that. And now with these GPS in the phones, which has been around for just a little bit, it's really nice to have. And I can see how having that kind of tool when golfing, when off-road navigation. I mean, the GPS systems that are in the cars, they don't necessarily have any off-road navigation, so I can see that as being a benefit to someone who can really use that. And another thing I'd like to ask you is, what influence do you have in the mobile community? Or actually, let's discuss that later. Can you describe to us the other types of apps that you design? I understand you did an ebook.
Yeah, absolutely. So the ebook is an iPhone application. So from a lot of industry influencers like Marshall Goldsmith, Rajesh Shetty, and all these leaders out there, they have a lot of good information, and their quotes are converted into tweets that are less than 140 characters, and we group them as ebooks, and it's called Think Aha. So
Mm-hmm.
the product is a bunch of quotes, but you'll have a few aha moments reading those quotes. So that's a very simple to use app, and very effective with a lot of users.
That's awesome. Now, here's a question that I'd like to ask you: is if a person wants to get into mobile development, what do you feel is the best pathway for them?
So it really depends on their background, what kind of software development background they have. For example, Java or .NET is like the most common software development background. So I mean, for those folks, something like J2ME, which is on a lot of feature phones, will be a really good entry point. But then right now with open markets and everything, I mean, the next obvious platform will be Android. So you can start off with Java, and it supports full Java and everything. So you can start off with Android, and the market is pretty easy to understand and everything.
Mm.
And if you are from a C or C++ kind of background, then iPhone has an awesome development environment. Although Objective C is not one of my favorites,
Mm-hmm.
but it gives you an awesome environment. I mean, the tools are real nice. You can develop for one screen size, right? I mean, all the iPhones are of the same screen size and resolution. So whereas you have other problems with Android, and you have to support all the multiple resolutions. But those two will be great. And if it's Java, if you've developed it for Android, you can always port that a little bit into BlackBerry also.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that because in my last podcast, I did mention that iPhone is one developer, it's one architect, it's one OS, and one manufacturer. And so I can imagine it's easier to design for iPhone simply because you don't have to worry about resolution. Everything's the same. Nothing much has changed. Maybe between the 3GS and the 4 with the extra pixelation, but there's not really much of a difference because it's all the same. Whereas Android, BlackBerry, Windows Mobile, and Windows Phone that's soon to come out pretty soon here, it's different manufacturers with different specs and slowness. So how do you keep up with all that when you're developing apps?
Well, mobile fragmentation is a huge issue. I mean, there are multiple ways. With open markets, the major platforms are the iPhone, Android, and BlackBerry. For someone that is looking to enter into mobile development, then you should really focus on those three. And then as your app is in a cruise mode or something, then you can switch on to other platforms like Windows Phone 7 that's coming up, and WebOS, which is probably not a long-term solution at this time. But I mean, even in Android, right, there's so much fragmentation. So there's so many devices that have different capabilities. They've released OS versions one after the other in a very quick manner. Now they've are going to release them much in a much paced manner. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, fragmentation is a real issue. And in addition to these, every OEM manufacturer is trying to come up with their own. Nokia has its own platform, or it's coming up with its own platform called Mimo or Migo. Uh,
Oh, really?
yeah, it was initially called, I think it's probably said as Mimo, and then they renamed it with Migo. The N900, that is the most recent phone that they've released, is on that platform. They're encouraging developers to develop exclusively on their platform. Samsung has its own platform called Bada. Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, we're all, I mean, all the mobile developers are hoping that there'll be less and less fragmentation with those open markets coming out, and but it's actually going the other way. We'll have to find a solution for that.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that's there are a selection, a few selections for smartphones out there, but there's a lot of other phones out there that I can imagine that you have to keep your eyes open for. And so you're saying that Nokia and Samsung is coming out with smartphone versions. That is definitely something that I wouldn't be able to do because I'm not so much of a mobile developer, so I can imagine that having to keep knowledgeable about all that stuff is something to say. Now, I understand that you are a startup company as well. Tell us something about that.
Yep. So yeah, I'm a co-founder of a mobile application development company called Mopria. I mean, our company is a mobile strategy company for anyone that
Oh,
wants to enter into a mobile space. So we can take an idea, analyze the market for it, design, develop it. I mean, we take care of deploying into all the major app stores, and then it doesn't end there. I mean, we follow up with the market feedback on any app store. The user comments are important. What is the user community? I mean, what does the user community want, and what is their feedback? So, I mean, we're like a one-stop solution for any company that wants its mobile presence. I mean, right now every company, be it like a grocery store or a high-tech software company, everybody needs a mobile app. So I mean, that's what we're trying to help the businesses out with.
and so when you're developing, and are you going to develop for multiple platforms out there? Are you going to be, make sure that you're telling these companies that you're consulting, say, hey, because I know a lot of, I love that newsletter that comes out, Mobile Commerce Daily, I think it's called, and I have to look for it real quick and get the actual name for it. And I'm sure you heard of it, but they a lot of companies are coming with all kinds of apps, but they're only designing for just iPhone or iPhone and Android, and that's it. So, are you going to be the company that's going to suggest, hey, you need to also do BlackBerry because BlackBerry is the number one phone sold in the market? So you have to consider the business people as well as the iPhone users and Android users. Are you going to make sure that they do that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there are companies that specialize only in iPhone because, I mean, they think iPhone is the only smartphone out there.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people doesn't know that RIM, which manufactures BlackBerry phones, is or until very recently is the number one has the number one market share in terms of smartphones
Mm-hmm.
worldwide. But in US, Android is catching up pretty close. I mean, there are reports that Android almost crossed BlackBerry. But so yeah, definitely. I mean, we give out the facts and we support all the platforms. I mean, we want the company to be successful, right? So we want to go with the best thing that is the best for the company, which means they have to be an iPhone and an Android and a BlackBerry. So I mean, we develop on all these platforms.
That's great.
Ultimately, yeah, ultimately, I mean, we want the company to make money.
Oh, of course, and that's what I strongly suggest. Foursquare, they do Android, BlackBerry, and um, I'm sorry, iPhone. I can't even think of the word real quick. And then, but what's good about Facebook? I mean, the Facebook that's designed by Facebook developers, they design for so many different phones. So that's what makes them popular. Yes, Windows Mobile is the slowest phone in the market right now, but smartphone, but at least they make a Facebook app, and I believe that you do have to cover all bases. You know. Uh, Now, how I met you, I met you through the meetup.com website, and I am so looking forward to your next meetup. I could not make it last night, sorry about that. But you are an organizer, and you created this meetup technology group in the Phoenix area of all places. I was so happy to see that. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, for the past few years, I've been very passionate about the mobile industry. I mean, just working in them and developing mobile apps. And I was looking for, a community that can, that where I can learn some more stuff, or I can share my knowledge and my experiences with developing all these apps. So I
Mm,
mean, I looked around. There were some groups that were completely focused on iPhone, or completely focused on Android developers only, or things like that. So
mm-hmm.
that's when I thought, I mean, we need something that is for the entire mobile community. I mean, not just developers, right? So you have designers, you have entrepreneurs who have great ideas about some cool mobile apps, but where do they go? How do they meet their co-founders, or other developers, so they can get their app into a product or a prototype? So I mean, keeping all these different segments in mind, I started this a mobile community that is completely agnostic to what platform. So we're a mobile community. We love all platforms. We hate all platforms. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I've got a great co-organizer named Kiran. He's my colleague at Trimble Outdoors as well.
Oh, okay.
We organize it together, and so far it's been really useful.
And that's good. And so, I'm glad you started that. And it's something that it's needed. I mean, you're right. There are a lot of iPhone meetups everywhere, and they're just all about the iPhone. And then I know this one guy who does a video cast on Ustream for Androids, and that's all he talks about. He is all about Android. In fact, as far as he's concerned, Android is the only smartphone. So. Um, it's really interesting that you have a group that talks about all forms of development, and it gets people into that. Um, but just kind of getting away from the mobile development talk here, what do you like to do on the side, hobby wise? What do you do for fun and stuff like that?
Sure. So I occasionally do some hiking. We used to go out a little bit regularly. Just inside here, Camelback, Squaw Peak, and things like that.
Nice.
But yeah, we have. There's a group of folks that we go, and I've been to the Grand Canyon a couple times, but didn't make it all the way till the Phantom Ranch. But the last time around, I did. So I'm a huge hiking fan. I wish I could do it more often, but that's not happening right now. And actually,
Mm-hmm.
hiking, I don't know if most of the folks know about cricket. It's a pretty famous game around the world, in
Yes.
Europe and things like that. So we play that regularly. and definitely volleyball and things like that. And if I mean, out of all this, it's when I have some time, I love to spend some time with my family. I have a couple of kids, so yeah.
That sounds like fun. And uh, I had a friend many years ago who played cricket, and and it seems like a very fun, a very um, a game that you can really get a lot of good exercise from. So that sounds like a lot of fun.
And
And mhm.
you'll be surprised to know how many tournaments and how many teams that participate here. I mean, it's folks from UK, a lot of places in Asia. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty prevalent here too.
That's awesome. Now, what kind of phone do you have? Because I like to ask that of every interviewer.
Yeah, so there's most of the times I have one phone that I use as a primary phone, but I'm always on multiple phones. Right now I have a Android Sprint Evo, the 4G version, and I got my iPhone when it first came out. I had to have it, right? I mean that was the coolest phone. So I had the 2.5G phone for about 2 years. I then upgraded to the 3G. But then when
Hmm.
3GS came out, I had to. So I had 3GS for a year, and until recently, I had the iPhone. Now I've switched into Android. I mean, both of them have their own pros and cons.
Hmm.
One thing to say is I don't miss iPhone entirely. So I mean, which means I like Android, but BlackBerry phones. I've played with the recent released Torch. It was supposed to be their competition for iPhone and Android, but my personal opinion, I don't think it's going to make any huge waves.
Interesting. What do you think about the new up and coming Windows Phone 7 that's coming out?
I've looked at some UI screens and things like that. I think it's supposed to be released in sometime in October. Um,
Hmm.
the features and specs, I don't know. I think they're a little bit behind on the curve. They're probably where iPhone, the initial version of iPhone was. So, I mean, even just going with Microsoft products, supposedly, I mean, this is all not concrete information yet, so we will not have it until it's released out. But the specs that they're
Right.
claiming is they don't have IE8, and IE9, which is out there, supports HTML5. So right now, Android supports HTML5, iPhone supports HTML5. So I mean, if that doesn't support it, that'll be a huge drawback. Um,
Mm.
iPhone was criticized a lot for not having features like copy paste, multitasking, and things like that. So,
Right.
and Windows Phone 7 doesn't have those features either. Without multitasking, the inter-app communication will be very hard. So, I don't know how cohesive it's going to be for developers. If you wanted to start a music app from your app, how is that going to work? So yeah, they're
Mm-hmm.
they're probably not going to come from behind and win or anything. It'll be, I guess that's how Microsoft products are. I mean, they release a first version, um, and then a couple of years later they'll catch up to the other products. But the initial version doesn't look so promising, at least in my personal opinion.
Okay. Because the one thing that caught me in is I am a big Microsoft Exchange and SharePoint fan. I think SharePoint is the bee's knees when it comes to internet intranet websites, of course, and so and the fact that it can communicate directly with that. So, but you're right though, it is not a format. It's not out yet, so it hasn't been tested in the real world, and it's gonna have to be wait and see how it actually does. My contract ends in October, so I'm either thinking about the iPhone 4 or I'm thinking about Windows Phone 7 because I had a Windows Phone or Mobile 6.5 now. So I'm decided between the two, and so I'm waiting for both to come out. But you're suggesting that, maybe a year or two, that's when someone should be interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at iPhone, right? If you compare iPhone 4 with iPhone 2.5G, I mean, it's huge
Mm.
strides, right? So, I mean, I think
Mm-hmm.
it'd be the same. If you go with an iPhone 4 and a year or so later, Windows Phone 7 might be up to the mark.
Sounds good to me. Hey, Pranil, I want to thank you very much for interviewing with us today, and it was a pleasure talking to you. And I can't wait to get to your next meetup. And tell us what days and what the website address is for this meetup.
So yeah, it's meetup.com Phoenix Mobi. So just PHXMOBI. That's the
Mm-hmm.
website, and we have meetups the last Wednesday of every month uh,
Okay.
at 6:30 p.m. I mean, if you go to the website, all the details are there for every meetup. We meet at the University of Advancing Technology on Baseline near the Fry's Electronics. Um, but yeah, if you go to the website meetup.com PHXMOBI, all your details will be there.
And for all the listeners here, if you have meetups in your communities that's outside of Phoenix, and it's dealing with mobile as a whole, we're not talking about if you're just an iPhone or Android, because this one is, this particular what Pranil does is for all platforms. It's just people getting together and to learn. And so if you do the same thing in your community, please go to the comment section of this particular podcast. Place a link in there to your meetup page, or if it's on Yahoo Upcoming or any other site, just place it here, and so that if you're in Seattle or Atlanta, Georgia, or whatever, people know where to go in those areas. And if you don't want to do that, send me an email. That's Antonio at mobicast.mobi. And you can send me an email about this podcast or any other podcast, and I welcome you to do that. Website address is, in case you're just pulling in a feed from FeedBurner or somewhere else, it's mobicast.mobi. Please go there and add your comments. Facebook page is facebook.com/mobicastmobi. It's also twitter.com/slash mobicastmobi. So definitely hit me up there. Pranil, before I let you go again, what is your website address? Sis?
So yeah, I work for Trimble Outdoors as well. I mean, it's an awesome company. It's not proud. It's the best company that I worked for.
Awesome.
It's a great team. The products are real nice. You can go to trimbleoutdoors.com. I don't have to say anything about the products. I mean, the products speak for themselves. It's available on pretty much any platform and any feature phone as well that supports GPS. So
Awesome.
that's trimbleoutdoors.com. And then my own company is Mokriya, MOKRIYA.com. If you go to About Us or Services page, I mean, you can look at all the apps that are released, and we're actually working on a couple of apps for some stealth startups on social networking. Well, Facebook and Twitter are social networking, but they're not real live socializing. So we're working on some startups that actually do help people in real socializing and meeting up in person. But anyway, the website is mokriya.com, mokriya.com.
Thank you very much. And if someone wants to reach you at Mokriya, am I pronouncing that right?
Yep.
How can we reach you?
Pranil at mokriya.com, PRANIL at mokriya.com.
Thank you very much. And Pranil, again, thank you very much for being here on MobiCast, and I hope to get you back again to talk about some more stuff. And this interview was, basically about you and what you do and what you feel about mobile technology, but I definitely want to bring you on to discuss, some hardcore meat of the product, and if you'd like to do that in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you very much, Anthony. It's my pleasure.
All right, thank you. And this is MobiCast, and definitely come back. let me go ahead and start